Hello friends, happy spring tidings. It is that time of year again where we must learn the alphabet. Okay, are you ready? Here we go. A is for a friend. B is for bug. C is for cat. D is for the pig. E is for egg. F is for fish junior. G is for grombo. H is for hamster. J is for George. I is for Rita State Arm. K is for Kimberly. L is for Longboy. M is for Mr. Stilia Trash. N is for Nathaniel. O is for OL Biggers. P is for President Froge. Q is for Quiet Joe. R is for Arbug. S is for Swimby. T is for Tendare. U is for OO Bird. V is for Very Small Dino. W is for We Got. X is for Xavier. Y is for Yanda. Z is for Zanda. Good job now.
Wow. And after that, it feels very anticlimactic to just come into the show. But welcome to Biz Talk Nightcap, now with intro videos and a countdown.
That's next level.
Very exciting things happening.
Although I'm on the left panel here instead of the right, so I'm kind of freaking out.
I don't
know what happened there.
There. How about that?
Yeah,
that
that's
make
better.
You feel better.
Makes me feel more comfortable.
The power of the mouse. We're excited to have everyone here with us tonight on Twitch and YouTube and Twitter. The Twitter, as the voice man on the previous video would have said. We don't know where Ben Gaines is. He'll be joining us potentially at some point.
I can't search for videos on Apple Watch.
Okay, thank you, Siri. We don't know where Ben Gaines is. He'll presumably join us at some point. He may be so excited about the Utah Jazz game right now that he is forgetting that we're doing a stream tonight. But we're excited to have our first guest with us this evening. One thing that we wanted to do is bring on someone different each week and talk to them about what they do and maybe the business perspective on what they do. And I'm excited tonight because we're going to be talking about the business of astronomy. So let's bring on our guest, Amy Oliver. You can find her on the Twitters at Nerdy Astronomer. And welcome, Amy. You are the inaugural guest on the Biz Talk Nightcap, and we'll also bring Ben on as well. Welcome, Ben.
Oh, hi, Ben. It's good to see you.
Hey, you too.
And I'll say that first, and then hi, Tyler.
Hello. And
Jason.
Hello,
hello.
hello.
Amy, tell us a little bit about yourself and let our viewers know who you are.
Hey, Ron. Like Tyler said, I am Amy Oliver. And first, I'll say I'm a NASA JPL Solar System ambassador. It's about 1,300 of us around the world. We're all actually volunteers for NASA. So we go out and we talk about different NASA missions. If you were familiar with the Perseverance mission, please don't have been under a rock. Please know what that is. We were all out preaching that most recently. And I also work in astronomy and astrophysics professionally. And right now I work for the Fred Lawrence Whipple Observatory in Amato, Arizona, which is a place no one has ever heard of. Google it. And that is owned by the Smithsonian Institution and is part of a collaboration with Harvard University known as the Center for Astrophysics, Harvard and Smithsonian. And as of next week on Monday, I actually work for the National Radio Astronomy Observatory, and I will be the PI officer for the ALMA telescopes in Chile, and I'll be the public information and news manager for the National Radio Astronomy Observatory. A lot of words.
That's a lot. And I just Googled it, and the first thing that came up is a giant longhorn skull that looks like a doorway into a restaurant.
It's a really amazing restaurant.
Okay. It looks as such. Quite a...
Oh,
They make steak.
Ben is our resident, he owns a telescope, So he probably is excited to have you on the program today. Amos.
Yeah, I also own a telescope, and I've
Wow.
never been able to make it work. It's literally sat in the closet for 14 years, and I have no idea how to make it work, and I'm embarrassed.
Okay, so later, show it to me, and I will tell you how over video. We'll do FaceTime, and I will help you make it work.
We could, if we have time at the end of the show, Jason, you can pull up the link on your phone and go to your webcam on your cam on your phone and like do a roving reporter type thing. That might be fun. That could be good television. So, Amy, we definitely want to hear about your different perspectives. Obviously, you just ran down your resume. It's impressive.
That's not even my resume. That's just what I do today.
Just what you did today. The chat is in the chat on Twitch. They're impressed. And I'm curious, just we are a business talk show. How has business been in the how is the impact of all things, whether it's museums or just interest in astronomy as a field, pick any element out of it. How has the past year impacted the business of astronomy?
That's a really great question. And so what the rest of you don't know, and Tyler brought up a really good point, is that as a part of what I do for the Smithsonian, we have a very small science center / museum at the Whipple Observatory in Arizona. It's been hard. That place has been closed. We closed at 10 a.m. on March 13th of 2020. I just went back there today myself for the first time in over a year. It was not open to the public. And the same thing is true for museums across the country. Some of them are open with really limited hours. So like here, we're running down my resume today. I'm also the Southwest Region Board Director for the National Emerging Museum Professionals Network, or NEMPN. And we see this with museums across the country and throughout the world. So we're really seeing that museums are suffering, cultural industry is suffering. And at the beginning of the pandemic, when everything was on lockdown, there were actually a lot of questions about whether the reduced smog from no cars being on the road was helping astronomy. And, definitely I would say that's a possibility. We'll never know because no one could go outside to actually test that. We couldn't really go to work to figure that out. But at the same time, more people were at home and more people were at home at night. And what I think was really powerful about that is that people were going outside. And so from the business perspective of astronomy, we always want the public more interested in what we do because we need to continue functioning and to continue existing when people are really interested in astronomy. So I hate to say that we got really lucky in a pandemic year, because this has not been a lucky year, but several beautiful meteor showers came, comet Neowise came, and people got really excited. So for Celestron and Meade and Orion, who make telescopes, it's been a boon of a year. It's really hard still to buy telescopes and telescope parts. They're sold out. They're on back order. So this has been a really amazing year for amateur astronomy. In terms of professional astronomy, we have struggled. There are telescopes just now getting back online. And at Whipple Observatory, we've had limited online status. But we struggle throughout the year anyway. We are in a place where we have a monsoon storm. People don't think about the desert as being a place where it rains, but we have a couple of months of monsoon every summer and we're shut down. So we've, gone through the normal role of business where there were things we couldn't do, and then also struggling with having limited staff and figuring out how to operate safely.
So what is the business? I mean, I think we see it as like nerds sitting in the telescope looking for extraterrestrial life and cool planets they can name after themselves. But like, what? I'm sure you have like a job you're paid to do. Like, what is the day-to-day?
That really depends on what your job is. So my day-to-day business is communicating science. So my job is to take what the scientists learn and then make it digestible for the public. So I have a specialty in every kind of astrophysics, and there are about 13 different types of specialties you can have in astrophysics. Very high energy, high energy, theoretical physics, computational physics, laboratory physics, astrochemistry. So I focus in all of those areas so that I can help them communicate what it is they learn. So if you saw the news last week, you might have heard about a guy named Brett McGuire and a guy named Mike McCarthy who discovered, along with a number of their teammates in their collaboration, a significant number of complex aromatic molecules in the Taurus molecular cloud. So my job was to take all of what they had figured out and then make it digestible in like a 3-page press release so that the news could write about it and everybody out there watching tonight could get excited about it.
So if I were to summarize it, you're the scientist that takes what the other scientists do and make it so the rest of us humans can understand what it is that you guys are doing.
That is exactly what I do.
I can get.
Yep.
Tyler, you're on mute.
It's just like work. A question for you, Amy, from our listeners in our attendees in the chat at twitch.tv/BizTalkNightcap. Invite your friends. You mentioned telescopes are doing really well right now, but what space technology is kicking ass these days? Like, what's the hot topic?
Which space technology is kicking ass? There's a few, right? So everybody's really interested in Starlink. Hi, Elon Musk and astronomy. We're not sure how we feel.
I was going to ask you about this.
You. Starlink is rough on the astronomy.
Explain. Tell us more.
So there are solar cells on these small satellites, and they reflect light, and that's a problem. We don't like light, right? Light on Earth is bad for ground-based astronomy. We like light coming from stars and reflecting back from planets and exoplanets, nebulae and galaxies. That's what we like to see. So when we have light reflecting off of these solar cells just in our atmosphere, that actually interferes with what we're able to see.
So for anyone who doesn't know, Starlink is a chain of little satellites that will broadcast high-speed internet someday worldwide, and we're talking like thousands of satellites. There's probably a couple hundred right now, maybe. Now, my understanding is they kind of fly around in a chain, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but like, is it they're reflecting light when they fly over your area, or is it a constant problem?
They are solar cells, right? So they reflect sunlight.
But is it like something that is a problem for the 5 minutes it's in your sky?
No, it's all the time. That's how they run. They have to have that reflect to run. So it's all a problem. So if and of course, so what they do is these types of satellites. So it's not just the Starlink satellites. There are other satellites like them. They actually fly back and forth across the horizon line. And so they travel from horizon to horizon, in a couple of minutes. And they're very fast. And so they can create this white line when you're doing imaging of the sky. And that'll happen to amateur astronomers. It happens to professional astronomers in ground-based astronomy, right? So not in space-based astronomy, we're well outside of the range of that problem. But they are good, right? There's a good basis for Starlink satellite. Previous to this role I have now, I worked in public relations for mobile and satellite technologies. And so I know that there's good that comes from this, right? So I know that LeoSats and Starlink have a really good purpose, and I truly believe in those components of what they are doing. And so in those terms, I think, satellites are really big right now, and it's for a good reason. And NASA is really big right now, right? Because we just put a rover on Mars. We put a new rover on Mars. It's amazing. That never gets old because they develop a new way to put a rover down on the surface of Mars every single time. So the 7 minutes of terror are always terrifying. Because you're never 100% sure if it's there and you got to wait. The rover has already been sitting there for 22 minutes before you know. So there's that. And also we're talking about other types of spacecraft as well. So, the James Webb Space Telescope is on my mind a lot. It was supposed to have launched previously. It hasn't gone up yet, but it's going to change everything we know. about space, the number of cameras on it, the high resolution. So it's really going to make a huge difference for us.
So I have a question, but first, Tyler, the Google says it's about 1,000 currently that are up there.
Okay.
My satellite tracking app lets me track like about 25 of them. But that seems like a lot, so, which leads to my question. Who can... I'm guessing my mind can't understand how big even our low Earth orbit space is. It's probably massive. But it seems like there's a lot of stuff up there. Who controls the highways of space?
That is a good question. And so the issue is there isn't like a world congress for who controls what's in space, right? So Starlink needed FCC authorization to launch their satellites into space. And if you were in Europe, you would need Ofcom's authorization to do that or to use that airspace. And so a lot of satellites, say they work in the X band, the C band, Ka band, Ku band, K band. You have your local organization's authority to do that. And we've actually been talking about that for many years. I was on a panel 3 years ago talking about this very issue, answering this question, who makes that decision? And right now it's these individual entities. And so we do have a database. There is a database out there that is tracking everything that's up there. So we know where things are, and it's not like you would launch a rocket and crash into something because we know where things are at. But there is a lot of space junk up there. So there's a lot of dead stuff up there, and there are organizations, plenty of them, 9 or 10, just off the top of my head I could think of, who are thinking up ways to net that stuff. And get it out of space.
So as they're thinking about launching new satellites into orbit, is the space big enough that you can kind of put it in a general area and it's okay? Or do you have to think about the logistics of those thousands of objects in the database and figure out where you're going to put it in that field so it doesn't collide with anything?
So that's going to depend on what the satellite is for. So there are different kinds of satellites, right? Like you can put satellites in geo, they can be, so when I say geo, that means along the equator. Okay. So you can have a geostationary orbit, you can have high Earth orbit satellite, and they all do different things. And so they're not all existing in the same space. Because when you think about that, it's not like 10 feet. And
there's multiple planes that you can be in.
It's miles. Yeah. We're talking about multiple planes of existence. And you can have 3 satellites that exist in the same space, but on different planes of existence. It's like being on Earth 1 and Earth 2 for the satellites. So you do have to know. You do have to know where those other satellites are. You do have to know what their path is. But in general, by the way, these things are so small, right? They're a problem because of the reflectivity of the surface. But they're so small that you can put thousands of them up there and they can exist in this little colony. And you're not worried about slamming into each other.
But there is no like global coordination. So while there may be coordination on a country level, you're still kind of playing within your own local rules on how that works.
That's basically where we're at. And there are organizations, the Mobile Satellite Users Association is working on that. They have conversations all the time. So, hats off to their president. Her name's Lisa Dreyer. They're working on those kinds of issues, and they're always getting better at it, right? There are conversations going on. It's not like they just do things and don't talk to each other.
Excellent. Another question from the audience. Ben, are you watching the Jazz?
No, I'm actually not. Sorry, I was stuck on mute there.
That's okay. It's work. When, Amy, Brewdiggs wants to know, when are they, or did they already launch the drone from the Mars launcher?
I should know the answer to that, and I don't know the answer to that. Somebody Google it really fast.
There was a follow-up, too. Saturn, Moon's Titan. I don't know.
Saturn, Moon's Titan. I mean, yes, there is a moon called Titan.
Isn't that a Jupiter?
I'm not sure. Somebody, Ben, Google the drone really fast so we can answer that question.
Okay.
Google the Perseverance drone.
Is anyone doing asteroid mining?
I mean, there are plans for that, yes.
I heard Jeff Bezos wants to do it and become the first trillionaire. That's why he's doing Blue Origin.
I mean, we'll see. But there are people thinking about that, right? Like there are astrophysicists and scientists out there thinking about all sorts of things. How do we mine an asteroid for nickel, for water, for ice, for any number of things I think they might find on it. And I also write for Earth Sky as a contributing writer, and we wrote a story about Psyche not too long ago. And there's rust on Psyche, which means iron, right? So we've got that rust there, and so people are starting to think about, well, what would we do with that? Because Psyche could be worth millions of dollars if we could get there and we could mine that ore and we could figure out what to do with it. Well, where are you going to put it? How are you going to get it back here, right? The OSIRIS-REx spacecraft brought back less than 2 pounds of material, and went to the moon. It was like 2 pounds of material. You can't travel too much through space. So asteroid mining is a great idea, but we got to figure out how do we get it anywhere.
And do we also
off of it? You have to get somewhere.
I have an answer if you want it.
Thank you.
They have not yet launched the drone. They're saying no earlier than the first week of April. They're starting to break it out, but need to do a bunch of tests and things before they launch it.
Well,
so there's your question. I'm really glad I was able to Google that for whoever asked the question.
Yeah, me too. Thank you. So in the meantime, though, they are posting all of the photos online. So you can look up the Mars Perseverance mission and you can see all of the raw images. You can download all of them, do whatever you're going to do with thousands of images. And you can hear sound. So Perseverance took audio last week, and it's quite fascinating. So there are other things going on besides the drone.
Fun stuff. Can rust protect from solar radiation?
I didn't hear the whole question. You cut out.
Can rust protect Can rust protect, I guess, metals from solar radiation? These are the questions coming from the chat.
No, I mean that's a good question, and I would say probably not, given the status of Mars. And that's a question I think we'll wait for Perseverance to fully answer. The InSight craft on Mars couldn't do its job, right? Like it could not drill through the surface of Mars. So there's a lot of things we didn't learn from that mission, what the radiation levels are deep into the soil. And so Perseverance may be able to learn some new things about that. And there's definitely rust on Mars. So that would be a first place we would figure that out. But, note that that's an oxidation, right? So what has to happen for oxidation to occur? Do you guys know? You do.
I don't.
Yes, you do. One of you does.
You have to get
Why
oxygen.
does rust happen?
I probably knew at one point.
Okay, well, so
because they don't have those things that are screwed to the side of the walls. What are those things called? It starts with an A, I think, to make sure stuff doesn't rust.
WD-40?
No.
Well, right, antioxidized, right? So you have there has to be the breakdown of the iron, right? And so how that happens on Earth is chemical breakdown, and a lot of things contribute to chemical breakdown, right? Like UV lights, which comes from the sun or another star, if we're somewhere else in the universe. That can help push that pathway along, but it's mostly chemical breakdown, right? So I don't think that rust can actually protect you from the sun because it's all about chemical breakdown. Oxidation means that the iron is changing into something else as it breaks down into something else. And so why would you want that to protect you? That would be like putting sunscreen on and then taking your fingernails and doing this and expecting not to get a sunburn, and the lines.
Give me the chills.
Yeah, right?
Sorry, did you hear my dry skin? I scratched my skin here like nails on a chalkboard.
And I don't know what I was thinking about, and this is completely off topic, but I swear I watched an episode of Dirty Jobs once where Micro was inside of some kind of surge protection device that was made of metal, and they had these little things they screwed to the wall, which was some other kind of metal that kept it from rusting. That's what I was trying to think of, but I can't remember what they're called. Sorry, complete.
I don't know. I wish I could tell you what.
Ben, Google that.
It stops corrosion.
Yeah.
But I cannot think of what you're talking about.
Sorry, go ahead, Tyler.
I was just everyone say hi to Bob in the chat. Bob is clamoring for attention, so say hi, Bob.
Hi, Bob.
It's Bob Dylan.
Is it Bob Dylan?
No, it's Dylan, but I call him Bob because he's a Bob Dylan. Just you have to be there to get it.
Sounds like an insane.
I know a scientist legitimately named Tony Stark.
Oh.
So if we had a guest named Bob Dylan, I feel like I won the jackpot today.
Ben and I work with a Tyra Banks and a Alex Rodriguez.
That was Tyra Banks, fool.
And apparently maybe this is an appropriate time to segue into our business topics. There is a group, because we're a company of 20,000 employees. There's like a celebrity Slack channel for employees who have celebrity names that only they're allowed into. That's weird. I mean, whatever, it's cool. Whatever floats your boat. What do you say in that Slack channel? Someone said, "Hey, did you know your name's Alex Rodriguez?"
I can get in that Slack channel. I don't work at Adobe, though.
Who's Jason Thompson?
What, because of the NBA player?
No, because of the Pittsburgh Pirate player from the 70s.
That's not famous enough.
I still win. I get it. You guys have a scientist named Tony Stark.
Yeah, that is
That's pretty cool.
That's amazing.
Can I make a plug? Do I get to say I'm like, he's speaking next week on Wednesday?
Is he?
Yes.
Wait.
Tony Stark is?
Yes, Tony Stark is speaking next week on Wednesday for the Smithsonian Astrophysical Observatory about the South Pole Telescope. He is a radio astronomer, and he works on the South Pole Telescope. So.
That next Wednesday. Is it Wednesday, you say?
Yep. It's on Wednesday at 11 a.m. Mountain Time.
Excellent. Ben, do you have any questions before we switch over to business topics?
I mean, I have tons of astronomy questions. I'm trying to balance like not boring everybody with them and also not like
You're not going to bore anyone. Our audience is awesome, and they're also pot committed by the fact that they showed up to begin with. So,
I mean, I can help you out while you're thinking about it, Ben. I can just like start talking about astronomy as a multi-billion-dollar industry.
My questions are not about the business of astronomy. My questions are more just driven by fascination with deep space objects and things. But like, I'm not gonna make you explain pulsars to everybody.
Why not?
That's a good thing today. Like, it's been a long day. It snowed at our observatory. I left my brain there.
I honestly, like, we could spend an hour. I would love to hear the latest on black holes, and I saw someone did a I can't remember what was amazing about it, but like there was this new photo of the Milky Way that had taken like 10 years to create. I don't know if you saw that.
12 years, yeah. That guy, he took multiple exposures of that. He had to layer them together through different filters. Yeah.
What is significant about that? Is it just new, or is there something we learned from that we didn't know before?
Well, I mean, to answer that question, right, people are going to be looking at that for days. So come back and ask me that question 6 weeks from now, and I'll tell you what somebody found. But what's really powerful about it is the he has layered in so many stars, right, that we're actually like seeing things just in those images that you don't normally see when you look at an image of the Milky Way. And you don't always see, since you're really interested in astronomy, you can really enjoy, for example, that nebulae are made of different gases and different structures and dust and light and stars and elements. And you're starting to see more of that structure from this image that he has created, from this layered image. And so it's really beautiful to get to look at that. And just, even in astronomy, right, like talk about when we're talking about professional astronomy, we're not really looking through an eyepiece, right? The MMT, for example, observatory is 6 in diameter. You're not looking through an eyepiece on that usually unless you're the giant from Gulliver's Travels. So we're using a computer to manage that. And so, it's still, there's a lot of similarities between some of the amateur astronomy that is going on and what we do in professional astronomy. And so to be able to see that someone could do that and they put that love and that time into it, it's really, really interesting to see what he's coming out with.
You're freaking me out. You're freaking me out, Tyler.
Sorry, just playing with layouts.
On the view, are you looking? Because
hang on, I'm not done interrogating the witness.
No, but I have one quick question to as a follow up to that. So you mentioned kind of you're looking at computers. Are you looking at imagery, or are you mostly looking at data?
So you guys keep asking me these questions where I'm like, it kind of depends on what you're doing, right?
Well, because we don't know what the hell we're talking about.
Yeah, so the MMT, for example, is it's the 14th largest optical telescope in the world. Think like the building is 5 stories high and it holds one big piece of glass. Okay, so usually there's something about the size of a small SUV attached to the back of that telescope, and it's called the binospec. And it's doing spectroscopy. And when you do spectroscopy, have you guys ever seen those, like, it's like a long line and it looks like a rainbow?
Yeah.
That's split up? Okay, so that's the output for that project, is hundreds or thousands of lines of that. And what the scientist is looking at in that case is, what is it made out of? So they're looking in one specific space, and those lines, whether they are emission lines or absorption lines, so where we're seeing black or where we're seeing colors, tells us what a star is absorbing. So, but basically what it's made of, what is it reflecting back to us, and what color is it taking, and we can figure out what it's made out of, how hot it is. So we also do something very famous. We own the hectoshell and the hectospec. And we do redshift. So anyone out there who's familiar with like learning how far back in time something is in the universe, that's us. Margaret Geller works for the Center for Astrophysics at Harvard and Smithsonian, and she is the one who has been pushing out redshift deeper and deeper into time. So it really depends on what's on the back of the telescope. There's another smaller telescope at our observatory that was finding things for the Kepler mission to look at. And so our little telescope would say, that looks interesting. And then when the Kepler telescope was live, it would turn around and it would say, actually, yes, it is. So we do that. We have a TESS follow-up. So we do the same kind of thing for TESS, right? We have these little shoe boxes on a stick that find a lot of exoplanets, actually. So a lot of things are going on in that way. So we're really looking for all different sorts of things. So.
And apologies, Ben. You may resume your cross.
No, that was a very interesting and detailed answer. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I got all of it, but
Well, I have one more for you, Ben, and I want to blow your mind.
Okay. Because
you said pulsars, but I felt like you wanted to say quasars.
I did, but I wasn't sure if it was quasars or quasar. Like I wasn't. It's been a long time since I've heard it pronounced, and I didn't want to sound like an idiot. But yes,
it's okay. So
more
we're also the home. I'm gonna blow your mind. So I stare at the Veritas telescopes, which are the Very Energetic Radiation Imaging Telescope Array System, and they look for evidence of gamma rays, which are. I know
gamma rays.
Someone's house.
What's that?
Where am I echoing?
You're what?
I said I'm echoing somewhere.
I'm blaming Ty.
I'm blaming Tyler too.
I'm on mute also. You're better
Maybe
now. It's better. It's gone. The echo's gone.
Okay.
Temporary glitch.
So for gamma rays, I know.
So anyway, we look for evidence of gamma rays, which tell us where neutron stars are, black holes, right? Veritas is the standard candle for evidence of gamma rays. So when you see those pictures of the Crab Nebula and they talk about gamma rays, and all of that violent activity, that comes out of this observatory. This comes out of those telescopes.
Okay, that's really cool. I probably missed my calling in life.
You can always cycle back around.
It's never too.
Yeah, I don't.
There, right?
See, I say that, but it's so. I took a class in college called Descriptive Astronomy, which was great because there was no math. It was really just like, define a black hole, or what does it mean? Like redshift was probably on the test. But in actual physics, which I'm sure I would need, in high school, I got a C+, which was I think my lowest grade in all of my high school career. So maybe astronomy wasn't really for me, but I do enjoy getting my 8-inch Dobsonian telescope out in the summer and looking at I have a friend who's into amateur astronomy, and he keeps telling me that with that telescope I should be able to see should be able to see more detail on all kinds of things, and I'm really just stuck at like I can look at Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and that's pretty much it. Like I can, and the moon, but like I can't see stars, I can't see nebulae.
No, that's not your telescope's fault. It's your eyepiece's fault. So we just need to give you another eyepiece. Maybe.
I mean, how much of that problem? I'm going to ask this question, and you guys can all be bored. How much of that is light pollution? Because I thought that if I took the telescope up to Idaho, into the middle of nowhere, that it'd be great. And like, granted, you can see the Milky Way with your bare eyes, but I couldn't get more detail. So maybe it is the eyepiece.
It is the eyepiece, because if you're seeing the Milky Way, you should be able to see. You should be able to see Jupiter just fine. When it's out in a visible place.
Jupiter, I can see. I can see Jupiter.
So, Venus, though, remember, when you're looking at Venus, you're always going to see something that looks like you blew a marshmallow up in the microwave.
Yes,
because that's Venus's atmosphere. That's the problem with Venus. It's not a problem with Earth.
I can see Saturn. I can see the rings.
Okay.
And I can see, with just like the tiniest, with focus perfect, I can see the space between the atmosphere and the rings. And with Jupiter, I can see moons. I think they're neatly in a line.
Oh, you're seeing moons? Yeah.
But like this friend of mine at work says that I should be able to get to farther out stuff, and I can't. And I don't know if is that still an eyepiece thing?
People have pinpointed Pluto with an 8-inch telescope. It's a very tiny dot of light, but they've found Pluto. So it's an eyepiece problem, right? Okay. So you need a number 5 planetary. You need to get online and buy yourself an. Are you on an Orion?
Yes.
8-inch Dobsonian. Okay, and you're in Utah.
Uh-huh.
So your next job is to call Mike Sheehan.
Okay.
At the Clark Planetarium. And so you call Clark Planetarium and you ask for Mike Sheehan.
Okay. And just I tell him what I want to do, and he'll point me in the direction of.
Mike is a telescope. Mike is an amateur telescope expert, and he runs retail for the Clark Planetarium, so he can help you find exactly what you need, and he can order it for you. He can do whatever you need. So this is gonna change my life this summer. So I appreciate it. And it's not that far from you, right? So Clark Planetarium is just in downtown Salt Lake City.
I can definitely
drive down.
Definitely swing up there.
If you get your telescope fixed, you could maybe see the Parov Nebula.
Yeah. I'm going to let you. I'm not going to respond to that. thank you for that introduction. Now we can move on to the business stuff if you want. I've Amy's changed my life, so we can move on.
Cool. First thing I wanted to bring, thank you, Amy. We appreciate you talking, and you're welcome to stay with us here, especially for this first thing that we want to bring up. Do you know what today's holiday is?
I don't even know what day of the week it is.
Today is Equal Pay Day. The day in which we honor, this is how far women on average have to work into 2021 to make the same amount that men made in 2020.
Are we celebrating this day?
We are lamenting this day.
Oh, okay. I can get on board with that. We can lament this day heavily.
Mm-hmm. What do we got to do, folks? Like, what is it going to take to get this equal pay problem fixed?
Man,
are you like asking for answers, or are you being facetious?
No, I work for a company that is at equal pay, is at pay parity. So good for Adobe. And there's several other tech companies, but I know there's a lot of other places that aren't. And I'm interested in your perspective, or I'm interested in anyone's perspective. Like, how do we solve this problem instead of just celebrating, but instead of recognizing equal pay day every day? When are we going to have the day where we say, damn it, we've done it. We are at pay parity for men and women. Let's work on another issue now.
I would like to see transparency, which is a difficult thing because I realize how that can also cause problems within companies always having transparency about pay. However, I think that transparency is really important. Tyler, of the long list on my resume, I also run a small company outside of my job. And actually, the transparency at my company is that everybody, including me, makes the same amount of money.
Brewdiggs asks if CEO pay affects this, and I got to think maybe CEO pay you can look at on its own, and I would say there's big differences there as well. But when we talk about average pay between men and women, I think it minimally affects it.
Yeah. I mean, so when we're talking about women and men, I mean, in science, nobody has to pull any punches. From this, women do not make as much money as men in science. And so transparency is a really huge issue for us, making sure that we actually know what's happening so that a woman who has 50 years of experience. I know a woman who has 50 years of experience who's making $40,000 less a year than men with half her years of experience. And transparency would really help the issue, because if you can't hide behind it, you have to start fumbling for new excuses.
To respond to the I think the comment on Twitch about negotiation skills and kind of asking for it, teaching those skills so that we're kind of asking for what we deserve. I think part of the problem is also positioning within organizations that Tyler going to his boss and negotiating a pay raise is seen as a very strong business move. Amy going to her boss and asking for a pay raise is seen as a not very nice woman move. Unfortunately, in far too many businesses. And so while I think we can absolutely address it from a how do we help people ask for more money and ask what they're worth, I think that's great, as long as we address the bigger problem that asking for that comes across two completely different ways, if that's coming from a male versus a female perspective.
And you're 100% right? I just had to go through the salary negotiation process. And fortunately, I got to do my salary negotiation with a woman.
I bet that makes a difference.
So I got to have
I bet that makes a difference, like on the average.
It does. Yeah, it absolutely does. I got to have that conversation with a woman who's had a similar career path. And so it was really meaningful for me because I got to be able to, we were able to come to a place that worked. And I'm not sure, actually, that's not fair. At National Radio Astronomy Observatory, I'm sure I still would have landed in the same place because they're very, I hate to say progressive, they're just doing it right. So they're treating employees very, very well, and they're doing things right at that organization, which is why I am going there. Exactly what Jason said, it's that I am perceived differently. and I always have been. I'm, almost 20 years into my career, which makes me feel old. But I could watch a male colleague at any point in my career ask for a pay raise on the same day as I did. He would get it and I would not. And teaching women how to negotiate or to feel okay negotiating is also a part of that. Women, since we're in a group of men, sorry guys, but a huge thing that women do is we feel like our passion and our good work speaks for itself, right? And I will work 80-hour weeks and I will crawl across the floor bleeding and dying for you and then wonder why you don't appreciate me. But a man won't do that. And it's part of our biology is that women are those caretakers and we tend to do that. And so helping women to learn that it is okay to say, I have 20 years of experience in this field, so I did this research and I would like to make X amount of money for my experience.
I think you brought it up at the beginning, Amy, transparency. That's what I'd like to see. It's just, here's a job. Here's what we're going to pay for it. When it comes time to do an annual raise, here's the criteria you need to hit. Here's how much raise you can get if you hit that criteria.
How close did Adobe get to that? So you mentioned Adobe's reached parity. What's the transparency look like as far as how that netted out throughout the organization? Do you have visibility into that, or is it more of a we've hit it, we've kind of agreed upon it, but not really insights into how that played out?
It's nebulous. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
but, like they're.
I thought they've posted some data on the internal web portal, but I haven't actually checked it out. Have you, Tyler?
No, let me access the Adobe Life app.
So
I don't know if it's going to be in the app, but I know. Like when I've gone to trainings on just management stuff, they have talked about posting some data, but I'm sure we could use more transparency.
I think it's definitely I do remember them saying it was on like a North America basis. There was still some work that needed to be done in other geographies.
Yeah, I know they had said that in North America and India they had achieved parity, but they may have made more progress since then.
So we do it in sports. We know what everyone else makes. Would it be problematic in business if we knew what all our colleagues were making? I mean, that probably opens up a whole different conversation, but I mean, that's the ultimate transparency, right?
I mean, that's the difficult part, right? Is because right now we're in a very inequitable place. So if we opened up transparency, that is an explosion. I mean, and probably an explosion that has to happen.
Yeah.
It's one we actually need. But I think that would, for a lot of reasons, I think if I woke up and found out someone with exactly the same job and years of experience as me was making $25,000 more than me, I'd be, I see chaos, good chaos, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that person who I'm like, yes, we need this, and it affects me. Yeah. And so I want to know that it's happening. Plus, I'm a huge proponent of everyone getting paid for their experience and for what they're bringing to the table. But at the same time, I also see why businesses don't want to do that. And I know I mentioned this to you guys before. I'm like, I don't have this problem at my business because the girl who writes the reports at the end of the day makes the same amount of money as I do. Mm. In my private business, I just say, everybody makes this so I don't have to worry about it because you all bring something important to the table. So it's been, I think it's and there are other companies who do that, right? I'm not like special. But I love this app.
This is 2 years old, and it was released publicly, though, so I'm comfortable sharing this.
I was going to ask you if you were allowed to make this public.
Yeah, well, none of us are under NDA here.
Yeah, okay. Well, none of you guys. Well, but I know this was released publicly along with a couple other companies, Citi, Starbucks, MasterCard. They all, and Adobe, they all joined together to release this pay parity data with investors and other stakeholders. And again, it's for fiscal year 2019. But here we go. This is the graph that shows pay parity. As you can see, the two sides of the graph are equal.
This is
The
not.
two sides of the graph. Where's the data in the graph?
Yeah, that's the joke.
Here we have promotion rate, male versus female, as you can see.
I
Both
have
sides
a
of it.
hard time believing it's that exact, but I'll go with you on that.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know.
I'm watching with interest.
Yeah.
No, but transparency, I think, is where it's at. And also, don't put the burden on transparency on the job seeker. Like, some of the there was some poll out on Twitter, LinkedIn today. It was like, should job postings have a salary range on them? And people were like, no, you can go and do your own research. There's Glassdoor and there's Blind and these other apps. And I'm like, well, first of all, that's putting the burden on the job seeker to do their own research. And a job seeker should do their own research for things, but not necessarily for salary. And second, people who report their salaries on Glassdoor and Blind can lie. And I think I would be out on a limb saying this, but I think men are more likely to report their salaries on Glassdoor and Blind than women are.
I would agree with you. Also, I'm going to derail this from the male-female conversation for a second to tell you guys that, museum workers are disgustingly underpaid. And like 80% of the time, it's not even a livable wage. And most museum jobs don't post the salary range. And that's a huge problem. And so I actually started paying attention to it, and I see it across industries and across many, many different industries. So, not just in museums, but it's a really rampant issue that they don't want to do it. And they say, well, I want to pay you based on your experience. And I'm like, yeah, but I have 17 years of experience, so you should feel comfortable telling me how many digits there are, and in what end of the spectrum it is, right? So you might find a museum job, for example, that requires someone to have a master's degree. The list of responsibilities is 5 pages long, and and you have to have 10 years of experience. And it says we'll pay you based on experience. And when you get there, they offer you $45,000 a year. And so, this is a much broader issue. So we always loop back to that transparency thing. Or to start with transparency, so there is some burden on applicants to be prepared to express their value. What is the value I'm going to bring to the table? And, for me as a woman, I don't walk into someone ever thinking of myself as a woman. I think of myself as an asset. And if they don't want me, well, that's their problem. But I think to all start thinking that way. And so the male side has to see the female workers as assets.
Absolutely. I can say that the strongest people that I have worked with, especially as a manager, are women. Like, the best people. Like, if I had, no offense to some men that I've worked with, but if I had to pick, this question was actually posed to me once. Like, if you had to take people from your team, you were going to leave the company and start your own company, which ones would you take? It's like, woman, woman, woman. But it's not because they're women, it's because they kick ass. Anyway.
But we probably kick ass because we're women. I'm just...
It's chicken or the egg. We are about out of time, folks. What?
I said I had to pick on you for that because I'm like, it comes from the drive and determination and that, we have to claw so hard. And that's why we kick ass.
I don't disagree at all. We are near the end of our time, Amy. It's been fun having you as our first guest. What do you think, Ben and Jason? Do we bring more guests on? And do we bring Amy back at some point?
Oh my God. I hope I made you want to bring more guests. I didn't realize the pressure that I was number one.
We do have a few more guests lined up next week. We'll have Twitter's That Boy's Good with us to talk about the business of barbecue. Something that I know will be interesting to a few of you here. Hila wants more astronomers for sure. I will tell the audience, and Amy, you can tell us what the hell this means. You said you could hook us up with someone who can talk about quantum dots.
I can. And I'm not going to ruin it. But I am going to get you someone to talk about quantum dots.
Is quantum dots like string theory, or like what?
It's not. Quantum dots, so the basics are quantum dots are particles that help you track things. And so in space science, currently, someone's figuring out how to use them to track nutrients in astronaut food. I'm going to let you think about how that works.
What were the
nutrients get to?
I want someone to explain string theory to me, but I'll save that for another episode.
We can get you one of those people, too.
Okay.
What's the ice cream of the future thing called? The little dot ice creams?
What, Dippin' Dots?
No.
Yes,
No.
Dippin' Dots.
It's, like you go... is Dippin' Dots?
And on that note, thank you for joining.
We're out.
Has been to Lagoon, and you're arguing that we don't know what Dippin' Dots are.
I've
never had Dippin' Dots.
What are the things that you get like at the movie theater, and they're the gummy things? Are those dots?
No.
Those are dots.
Okay,
Yes.
that's where I was confused.
Okay, no, like...
Also, Juji fruit. Elaine got in trouble for eating Juji fruit on the way to the hospital. Sorry.
That was a Junior Mint.
No, Junior Mint fell in the patient during the operation that had the observation deck. Two completely different episodes.
Jason's encyclopedic memory of Seinfeld is unbelievable.
It's a gift.
I also would like to bring you guys someone to talk to you about software engineering in astrophysics.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Ben said he couldn't be an astrophysicist because he was bad at math, but I know a scientist that was just teaching a computer how to put supernovae into buckets.
It's not even that I'm bad at math. I'm just bad at physics. I can do the math. It's kind of the abstract, some of the concept. Anyway.
So Amy knows how to talk to the humans. I'm worried about if we get someone that doesn't know how to talk to the humans, we're not even going to know what to ask them. It scares me.
I can help you. I will only bring you people who know how to talk to you.
Okay. That makes me feel more comfortable.
The guy with the supernova buckets knows how to talk to people.
Okay. Then I think that would be a fun conversation. But yeah, to answer your question, Tyler, yes. I think people don't want to hear the three of us kind of drone on about stuff. I mean, I find it fascinating, but I think they would much rather hear from the Amy's of the world. It makes it a much more fascinating discussion. So we should keep the guest format going.
I think we will. I think we will do that. Well, thank you again, Amy, Jason, Ben. Thank you for joining this journey again today. We will wrap things up for tonight. If you have not done so already and you are in Twitch, please follow and subscribe and tell your friends so that we can get more people into this thing. And I'm not trying to make money off of it by any means. We just want to feel validated.
And we think there's real value to be had. So I would definitely ask your friends to come hang out. It's good stuff.
Hila says it's a great chat. She didn't even have to ban anyone, despite Brewdiggs using the F word towards me. I think I know who Brewdiggs is, so I'm going to go have a talk with his father right now. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night. And
Thanks,